Trail of Crumbs. Chapter 5. A week came and went. I explained to the children that the potion was simply a beauty potion and that I wasn't an old hag as they thought. We moved into a smaller house, having only one floor and cobwebs everywhere. I was left with the children to clean it while LaFleur went to sell our best items for food that day. To my dismay, he spent far more than what was needed on his children. It certainly boiled me up to have him go out and sell my dresses and come back with sweets for them. It was during this time I hid my golden pot and cage well. I was afraid he would find it and trade it in for something just as stupid as the sweets. This had become my only complaint about the children. We lived in a horrid shack-like house, yet Hansel and Gretel were spoiled into thinking all was well. I sat on a squeaky rocking chair that was older than me as I stared out into the forest. Since we had to move, we were closer to the edge of the forest, which is why I placed my cage and pot with Kara and Tralgar. It wasn't theirs for keeping, but they gladly added it to their small treasure trove. "You're beginning to act strange again," Hansel said behind me. I looked his way, seeing the sheltered boy was carrying a bundle of logs for a fire. I tried giving him my best smile. "I just worry we won't get out of this without a major loss of respect." "Why do you ask? Have you lost faith in me again, Hansel?" He shook his head. "No, I'm just concerned is all." He left to tend to the fire. I watched him and his nervous movements as he fed the dancing flames. I stood from my seat and strode behind him, setting my eyes on the fire. He stopped his work when he felt my presence. All I had to do was push him in. All the troubles in the world would be gone if he disappeared. LaFleur came into the room, holding food in his arms. Hansel backed away from the fire and met my eyes. How much more did this boy need to trust me? "I got something special for you all tonight. I'll even cook up dinner, that is your treat, darling," LaFleur said. I pursed my lips, not knowing if I could handle this man much longer. He brought more for his children. It was because of them that life in general had become unbearable. If only I could sell the children. My eyes blinked as I stared into the flaming fire. I remembered the offer the giant had given me. I could sell the children. Kara would pay me big for it too. Their hoard of goods was small in comparison to what it used to be, but it would be enough for me. For one, it would easily supply LaFleur with another boat. He had bought a new one, but it wasn't enough. My schemes began once again, but it wasn't set into motion. I still fought with morality over greed. If I sold those children, Kara would eat them without a doubt. Surely, they weren't that much of a nuisance, and I was proving Hansel's suspicions by merely having these thoughts. When dinner time came, LaFleur brought out the gifts for his children. To Gretel, he gave an expensive doll to replace the one Hansel broke. And to Hansel, he gifted a statue of an orca. It was considerably larger than the statue he originally gave the boy. And me, well, I received nothing. Sweets and food were one thing, but pointless trinkets were another. My mind twisted and turned, but greed overthrew reason. The plan went into full swing. At the end of dinner, I stood and stated, "I wish to go out to the forest again with the children." LaFleur looked uneasy at the request. "Are you certain you wish to do that, knowing that there are giants out there?" Gretel smiled and cheered. "Charlotte can protect us." "I just know it. I say we go." Their father accepted the girl's can-do attitude, and then he looked at Hansel. The boy glanced at his father's questioning face. "I'll get ready," the boy said gloomily, heading off to the room he shared with his sister. I hid my smile when I knew what he was going to get, the bag of white rocks. I made sure of it that he wouldn't have them this time. There was no finding his way back home. The boy came back, putting on a smile and wearing his cloak. He handed Gretel hers. From the corner of my eye, as we were about to leave, I noticed he took a loaf of bread from the table. I chuckled, wondering what he planned to do with that. This time as we went into the forest, I had the two kids stay in front of me. As we went I did not comment as the boy dropped pieces of bread on the ground. I didn't stop him either. Being in the back, I saw the birds picking at the breadcrumbs right away. They surely were heading out to be lost forever. It was only a matter of time before I needed to disappear. I played the pleasant role of mother just as I did the first time. When I believed we were far enough that they wouldn't find their way back, I made my escape. I started to cough and wheeze. Dear me, I must freshen up with some water. If I am correct, there is a creek nearby. You two wait here, I said. Wait. Hansel shouted, you can't just leave us. I laughed at his fear. You are a big boy, Hansel. Besides, I also need to relieve myself, and I doubt you wish to accompany me for that. I will return shortly. If someone or something attacks me or even you, there's the bread trail you made for us. My hand pointed to the breadcrumbs, and thankfully the fog covered the fact that the rest of the trail had been eaten away. And because I stated that I knew he was setting out the trail and didn't stop him, I gained a piece of his trust. He let me go off. When the fog devoured me from their view, I went to Kara and Trollgar's cave. Kara was already in front of the entrance. It was a bit unnerving that she knew to expect me. Out for another stroll? You know, if you let them get lost, I can't promise I won't kill them. That's why I came. I'll willingly give them to you in exchange for some of your treasure. And I know just how to allure them here. Kara pressed her large lips together. I could tell she was debating if fresh human meat was worth forking over a portion of their goods. Quite frankly, I wasn't sure why they were so obsessed with shiny and glittery things when they couldn't openly flaunt their wealth. Finally, she nodded, probably tired of eating small animals. All right, but I want them to be nice and round. I grinned and explained my plan. Quickly we set the perfect trap for the children. Using my powers, I made a house out of the plants. From the outside, all manner of juicy fruits hung from vines and branches. Two spoiled children would not be able to resist. They were by no means hungry, but their bellies were not used to their new meal sizes. Inside the house, I placed my golden cage and large boiling pot along with my brother's books. I easily created beds and chairs out of bark and leaves, making the place appear homier. Now if I had more time with this plan, I would have made a house out of sweets. My ideas would warn anyone that my mind had jumped to the deepest depths of insanity. As I prepared for over an hour, I noticed my hands had wrinkled and were shaky. And my sight had faded into blurs of color. However, I decided appearing old would make the trap more effective since they wouldn't know it was me. Once the house was complete, I sent Kara away, telling her to find the children and bring them in this direction. I was told later that she found the children around the same spot I left them, searching for their path home. Kara came from the direction we entered the forest and chased the children down until they neared the area where the fruity house was located. After that, Kara acted as if she were scared of the area and fled, leaving Hansel and Gretel lost again. It wasn't long until the children stumbled upon the house, both tired and hungry. They couldn't resist the appeal of the fruit before them. Together they walked over and started to pick the fruits off and shove them in their big mouths. That was when I entered the game. I stepped out of the house in my yellow dress, looking as old as ever. The children stood amazed and frozen. I stared coldly at them, squinting my eyes so I could see them better. Now what would two young people be doing in a place like this and snacking on my house? I asked in a creaky voice, just like the rocking chair I sat in earlier that day. Hansel spoke first. I am sorry. We did not know this was someone's house. Please, we are lost and can't find our way back home. Can you help us? Maybe a bed for the night? I looked back and forth between Gretel and Hansel. Gretel was frightened and clung to her brother's arm. I snickered and said, Fine, but you will have to help me around my house. Hobbling to the door, I gestured to the kids to follow me inside. They did it without any argument. Once inside, I sealed the door shut, making it seem as if no door even existed. Hansel and Gretel looked warily around the place. Hansel stiffened when he saw the big cage. His eyes then darted over to the boiling pot that could easily fit his sister. I pointed over at the beds I made. That's where you can sleep. Your payment to me will be in the morning. Till then, rest well, dear children, I said, making my way to the chair sitting in front of the pot. Gretel took Hansel's hand and quietly went over to the beds. The boy tucked the girl in bed and then got in the other one. Throughout the night, I pretended to be asleep while I waited for them to nod off. Hansel continued to be difficult and as hesitant as ever. Soon, however, he slept soundly like his sister. I pulled myself out of my seat and stared at them on the beds. Using my powers, I moved the plant-made bed Hansel was on. It lifted him and placed him inside the golden cage. I could not hold back my smile as I locked it. As for Gretel, I left her where she was. I didn't want to cook her up for Kara and Tralgar. If I could avoid it, I would. She was young and easily manipulated. Plus, I still had a soft spot for the child. Of course, if Kara was not satisfied with Hansel, would give her Gretel without question. The rest of the night was peaceful. And my wake-up call was even better. I woke to Gretel and Hansel trying to escape. The golden cage was no match for Hansel, and Gretel's little arms did nothing. Gold was a soft material, but this cage was only tinted in gold. The two stared at me as I arose, waiting to see what I would say. I grinned wickedly and said, "Good morning, sunshines. What should I cook for breakfast?"